Hello and welcome to this amazing roundtable of shaping the future, navigating innovation in the generative AI era. As we all know, generative AI is a transformational technology. Today, it's being compared to the wheel, the railroad, and very recently the smartphone in terms of its impact on the human race. And it's funny how ubiquitous it is and the ease with which people are accepting it. The other day, my mother walked up to me and she's really never asked me about my job, but she came up to me and she said, "Abhishek, what is generative AI?" I was baffled because she barely started using the smartphone a couple of years back. And when I asked her where did she hear that from, it seemed it was a topic in her kitty the other day, and there were a bunch of ladies who were discussing the impact of generative AI and how their kids are talking about it. That's how real this is getting, right? While each of our lives probably gets touched by it or probably will get touched by it in the near future, enterprises are grappling with the impact and are trying to figure out what is it that generative AI holds for them. And I have this really amazing panel from various facets of the industry to talk about it and talk about how their enterprises, as well as what they're seeing in the industry in terms of navigating that innovation in the generative AI era. We will do a round of introduction and then we will get started with the roundtable. Tina, I will pass it over to you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll just go around the table with regards to each of the panelists talking about their experience before we get started.
Sure. Thanks, Abhishek. Hello, everyone. My name is Tina, and I've been a part of Adobe since the past 8 years in the data science and generative AI space. I have around 18 years of experience in data science AI/ML domain. And to see Gen AI boom is really fascinating and really exciting to see its applicability across various facets in our lives. I'm excited to be on this panel and look forward to a really interactive and engaging discussion. I pass it over to Yatish to give his introduction.
Thanks, Tina. Hi, everyone. This is Yatish here. I'm working for Airtel Digital from past two years. I work on the ad tech space. I lead the analytics in the ad tech world. So I'm really excited to kind of share my views how Gen AI is actually kind of contributing in the field of ad tech and customer experience. And I welcome all my co-panelists and excited to kind of share my views. Thank you. I think Raghu, you can start. Thank you.
Thanks, Satish. Hey, everyone. I'm currently working as head of data and reporting at Foundever. It's one of the CX titan around the globe. And as part of my role, I head the data infrastructure, reporting, and multiple transformation initiatives in the organization. I'm based out of Bangalore and I have overall 16 years of experience. I'm excited to be part of this panel and share my views on Gen AI and how it is shaping our BPO and CX industry and share some insights with the panel and the group. Over to you, Gaurav.
Hi everyone, this is Gaurav Shrivastava here. I've been in this industry of analytics, data, and AI for the last 22 years now. Currently head the banking and capital markets data and analytics team in Genpact. Uh, and I've been working with financial services clients right through my career. Uh, I think Gen AI is a very exciting is in a very exciting phase today. It is perhaps actually making transformations easy, and especially when I talk about it, I'm talking more from a banking perspective, and this is what I want to focus on when we have our discussion today. Over to Vijayender.
Yeah, hi everyone. Myself Vijayender. Currently, I'm working in Landmark Group where I head the data science and AI based product function. I have close to 17 years of experience in data science and AI. In the past 17 years, I have seen the evolution of, I would say, data science and AI. In earlier part, we used to call it statistical modeling. It went to data analytics, advanced analytics. Now we are talking about AI. I'm really excited to be part of this panel. We will be discussing about the shaping the future with AI. I think it has been talk of the town now for past number of years, and I think it's good to be here and discuss how Gen AI will play a pivotal role in the years to come.
Wonderful.
What do
Thank
you
you, everyone.
share?
Like I said, I mean, I'm really fascinated to hear your thoughts. Like I said, each one of you represent a different facet of the industry, and I'm sure the outcome of this roundtable will be amazing because we're going to hear so many different thoughts and so many ways in which generative AI is likely to impact all of us. A little bit about me: I have about 15 plus years of experience working in both services and product companies of data and analytics. Started in the world of data warehousing, and today we talk everything around AI. I had customer success and partnerships for the Fosfor group of products under LTIMindtree, and like a lot of you, I speak with a lot of customers and try and understand how generative AI can impact their lives and can impact the lives of their customers. With that, let's kick this off. Now, the topic of the discussion is shaping the future, navigating innovation in the generative AI era, right? Let's first start with the first part of the topic, which is shaping the future. And Tina, I'd probably want to start with you. How do you see the future of generative AI with regards to products, right? And how do you see product companies evolve as generative AI becomes more and more relevant in the space? Why don't you give us a bit of a feeler in terms of what you're seeing in your space?
Yeah. Thanks, Abhishek. I think Gen AI is by far the epitome of technological advancements the world has seen. Since its inception in the past couple of years. The capability and the applicability landscape of Gen AI is huge, and it has sparked immense interest across companies and users. Abhishek, you mentioned about your mom coming and asking you about Gen AI. I think that's the kind of impact it has seen on the ground, right, across people. Generating text, images, videos, codes, you name it, and you have it in Gen AI. With just a natural language as an input, gives the user the flexibility to interact in his native language with the generative AI application and generate content within seconds. I think that's an immense impact that Gen AI has across all products. Some of the products we talk about generate content, generate applications that help with productivity across different facets of users, be it a developer, be it a content creator. The usage of Gen AI within the companies has seen a huge success, and it has seen a huge increase. Companies are using Gen AI to build capabilities around increasing productivity to help developers or content creators, and also the end users to generate content of their choice. The opportunities, I would say, are immense and are huge. um, Companies are looking at partnering with the technological companies of the world to create a solution that is robust and that is really helpful for the users. And we have seen this surge where everybody is now using generative AI to generate whatever content they want. I think, Abhishek, yeah, that's my thought.
That's wonderful. In fact, I'll probably echo what you said with regards to productivity. I mean, one aspect is you're just seeing this surge of productivity with people using generative AI to create content. I think creative lines are seeing a complete transformation with regards to how they're doing their work. And then there is the productivity of using the products themselves, right? I mean, the fact that the ease with which users are able to interact with products today, that in itself is transforming in a big way, simply because of the fact that today you have people not even coming from those backgrounds and
Absolutely.
using it. I was reading an article the other day that there's an artist who's a digital artist, and a digital artist never really existed. He uses prompts to actually create paintings and then sells it out in the open market. Who would have thought something like that could even exist? And this is just his imagination. He was not even a painter. He'd probably never even picked the paintbrush, but today he's a renowned artist in the industry. So definitely I echo a lot with regards to Tina what you said. I think products are changing changing the way creative lines are getting blurred, and how people are becoming more and more, I would say, using their brain cells rather than just their skill sets to go down the creative path. I'll pass it. I'll move to Yatish, and Yatish, you work in an area which is very close to customers, and I think customer experience is a big part of what you represent.
Yes.
Talk us through how customer experience is changing, and why is generative AI becoming so critical to that path.
Yeah. So from the customer experience, I think generative AI is already kind of making a lot of advancements, and I'll just kind of keep the conversation into three buckets. So usually in customer experience, you can talk about personalization is one angle. There is another thing called automation. How exactly automation happening using Gen AI and in the field of customer experience, and also omni-channel reach out, right? These buckets, if you kind of consider. So if I come to personalization as a first bucket, so any product which people are using today, if you kind of, so Gen AI is actually kind of giving a lot of uh, opportunity in doing hyper personalization of the products, right, or the experience. So one of the examples I can say is dynamic creative generation. Like for example, suppose say you're going to app in the ad tech world, so the creatives sometimes can be same across all the customers, but if you can hyper personalize on the go using Gen AI, I think that will be a game changing, and that's already happening in some of the places. So that is on the personalization. If we come to the automations, right, every company has lot of customer facing BPOs and things like that, and it can actually lead to a lot of delay in responses and things like that, right? As a first kind of line of thing, there are a lot of Gen AI LLMs coming into chatbots and virtual assistants, which actually giving solutions to the customer at the forefront, which will actually make customers to resolve any kind of a problem in a very fast manner, right? So in the automation space, there is a lot of advance happening on, especially on the LLM space, chatbots and the virtual assistant. If you come to the omni channel, so now we are actually living in a kind of an digital era, right? So where the customer touch points are present across different channels. Like for example, morning you'll be kind of touching base with a kind from a media, and then evening you can actually touch base through another app. So we can actually interact with the customers through different channels. So using Gen AI, we can also kind of optimize this omni-channel integrations, and actually kind of give that the right messaging at the right time to the customer. This will actually will be the game changer in customer experience. So yeah, this is my views on these two buckets.
Wonderful. In fact, when you talked about hyper personalization, I know this has been a topic around for a while, and there was this whole concept of individualized recommendations, right? So based on one person, what have you been your interactions been, and therefore companies recommending exactly per your space versus just giving a general view. And I think that is getting more and more powered by something like generative AI, simply because of its capability to accept so much data and then really respond to the way you are responding or you're interacting with the technology, rather than the technology responding to what others are saying.
Yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Raghu, I could sense the excitement on your face when Yatish was talking about contact centers and omni-channel, because I think that's something that you're very close to. And it intrigues me because I think contact centers, it's the way it's transformed, at least the what we're reading, is that the way contact centers are transforming, it's almost to a point of eliminating humans from that chain. Uh, is that what you're sensing as well? And can you talk about how generative AI is impacting contact centers in general? And would love your experience around the customer experience as well as the omni-channel space as well. So would love
Sure.
to hear your thoughts on that.
Thanks, Abhishek. Yeah, and you caught me. Yeah, it was exciting to hear some of the thoughts, and I'm sure Yatish and I will go a long way together. So let me just take a step back, right? So we speak about generative AI, but as you all know, conversational AI has been around for over a decade, right? So you're talking about the chatbots, the virtual assistants, we've all been using it for more than a decade now. And what we see, think of generative AI as just the natural next step of the digital transformation journey. And let me specifically talk about what the BPO and the CX industry have been doing. There are 2-3 areas where we've already seen tremendous impact, and Yatish can definitely relate to some of these. One, creating co-pilots for agents, right? And we've heard co-pilots a lot. So what it means, right? It's about augmenting and enabling these agents to make quicker, faster decisions through a vast knowledge repository. So obviously, the knowledge repository starts changing based on the domain, the customer that you're going to interact with, the nature of problem. But overall, what we've already seen is this is tremendously improving the average handle time and customer satisfactions. And we are clearly seeing those results through these co-pilots that the agents are using on a day-to-day basis and making faster, quicker decisions, right? Two, accelerated learning and coaching. And what I mean by that, in specifically in the contact center world, when you look at it, a coach or a supervisor tend to take a statistical sample of what the agents are, the number of calls they're taking. They take a small sample, go through those calls, go through those recordings, and identify the improvement opportunities. And come Gen AI world, what has happened is gone the statistical sample. Now they're able to analyze all the calls. So they put it through an engine. It summarizes all the calls. It identifies the opportunities and gives specific tailored training that is required for agents on a daily, weekly basis. So this significantly improve their learning and coaching, right? And third, most importantly, automation and AI supervisor. So what I mean by that is, I think Yatish spoke a little bit on this. This has been happening in the past, right? Yes, there were very tier one basic inquiries were always getting automated through the bots and virtual assistants when it comes to changing passwords or you just want to change your profile. So those existed always. But what Gen AI has now started enabling is to automate even some of the complex questions in giving product recommendations when it comes to fintech, in insurance, trying to see if they can close a policy, right? So there's so many use cases depending on the industry that you're working with. And what naturally happens is now AI starts automating either completely or partially. And the agents are now becoming AI supervisors, where they're spending more time monitoring, focusing on consistency and continuous improvement. And now what historically were what they were called as agents are now being called as AI supervisors, because they are not coming into the initial set of conversation, but they are playing a significant role in monitoring a lot of volumes and only coming into play when there is an automated transfer that comes to the agent to finally resolve the solution, right? So those are 2-3 things that are already happening, already being in place. And as we go through the panel discussion, we'll be happy to share more examples. But those are some of the exciting things that are happening in the BPO and CX space now.
I loved the last point that you said, because it's not just about technology impacting us and our experience, but also generating new job opportunities, right? And upskilling people. Like, for example, contact center agents probably could have never thought of themselves as AI transformers, right? People who are actually training the AI, and that's a step up, if you ask me. And while we fear technology a lot, what we forget is that there is so much opportunity out there as well for people to upskill and move to that next level. I think again, just to your point, there was something I was reading the other day, but there are completely new set of job roles that are getting created around this space, where training of AI is one of them. Prompt engineering is another one, right? Where instead of coders, now you have prompt engineers. Who could have ever thought of someone who's required to structure a question in a way that AI responds to it properly, right? Just the fact that generative AI is generating job opportunities and upskilling people, I think, is massive in its own right.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to echo on one thing, so it's removing volumes, right? It's not taking away jobs completely. And wanted to answer one of your specific questions. Yes, it reduces the number of volumes of traffic, but the traffic always comes in. The what is called as the resolution rate happens faster, and it happens through technology, and then agents come into play to resolve more complex issues and
Got it.
problems.
Got it. Productivity. I think that's the theme that I'm hearing from this panel as well. Fantastic. Gaurav, over to you. I think you and I come from a very similar background with regards to servicing customers, talking to them, and there's a lot of excitement out there. I mean, I think to get a CXO level conversation, all you need to write in your subject line is generative AI, right? Why don't you talk about some of your experiences and how are you hearing customers talk about this, and specifically touch upon this point, because it's a very controversial point to say, is all of this a reality, or is it still in a phase where people are saying, I like it, but it's still a mantle on my it's a showpiece on my shelf rather than a real thing. What's your sense, and how are you seeing generative AI impact your customers?
See, I think it's a very interesting phase we are in as far as Gen AI is concerned. I think everybody is extremely excited about Gen AI and its potential. I think in the last 1 year, we've done more than 200 POCs with various customers on different problems in Gen AI. I think when it comes to implementation, I think still, given that the technology itself is something very new and exciting and everybody's figuring out, I would say only about close to 10% of our clients are at a point where they've moved on from doing multiple POCs to actually getting something into production. It's still a very encouraging number, I would say. It's not really something which is, wouldn't call it slow. I think it is, I would call it more responsible. Okay. All of these have been extremely successful. The ones that we've been able to take to production, they've created strong benefits for the clients on the ground. There are multiple areas where we see this happening. I think biggest area obviously is customer experience, and there's a lot more that you see happening in this space. For example, we have our own solution, Aura.ai, where we are actually using it along with AWS Connect to implement multiple use cases for clients, whether it is for call deflection or avoidance, whether it is for agent productivity, whether it's for upsell, etc., etc. There are multiple use cases where we're actually taking it all the way till implementation. Another area where the implementations are happening a little bit more is where we can clearly see cost savings. There are multiple examples there as well. It could be about let's say, for example, it's a platform migration. Earlier, those typical SAS to Python movements used to be long exercises that you used to do along with a lot of people involved. But we are getting to a point where all of that is becoming much faster. You have automated test use cases, you have automated script generators that are being utilized using Gen AI, and they are making the process a lot more faster than it used to be. Operations as such is a very big area where multiple efficiencies are being created using Gen AI. There are multiple examples of how we are doing it. Some interesting new areas that I've seen where Gen AI has created a lot of impact is training and upskilling, and specifically in operations. I think this really becomes a very very useful example. I think with the kind of attrition rates that we have, getting somebody new in and training him to be able to do the role that he needs to do becomes much faster. In fact, we use a concept called as a Guru GPT concept, which allows somebody to quickly pick up knowledge from all the extensive SOPs and information which is available in a more question and answer mode, and essentially reflecting somebody who's been able to do it well in the past. Uh, Similarly, regulatory compliance is another big area, and we've got a few products in that space. And especially the focus seems to be on KYC, where we are seeing a lot of implementation for, I think still early stages, especially given I would say the sensitivity around regulatory compliance. Still early stages, but we are starting to see some implementations. I think the bigger thing that is happening is because of all of these use cases, uh, we are at a point where we are talking a lot more about business outcomes, about KPIs that we can influence, about solutions as an overall unit that we can implement with embedded AI or Gen AI, rather than the capability itself. I think that is where the world is moving. That is where perhaps that we'll see a lot more change going forward. Now, trying out Gen AI for a specific POC is one thing, but driving a Gen AI implementation at scale is another. And most organizations actually go headlong into Gen AI only to realize that what they need actually is a very carefully planned approach. They have to think about their tech deployment. What tech infrastructure they need, what is the kind of data architecture they need to have to be able to support. Not every use case that you can think of should be enabled using Gen AI. So you want to take a very measured approach in terms of how you do it. And plus, there are risks that will come when you actually do a Gen AI implementation. So having a strong responsible AI framework and human in the loop is going to be extremely important. Especially when you are trying your implementations out for the first time. And then the whole training and engaging users part. I think none of that will be successful if your people are not able to pick it up and then being able to utilize it in real time to create the maximum benefit that you require. Now at Genpact, we are focusing on, as I said earlier, on AI-first solutions to drive business outcomes for our customers. So all our business operations solutions, all our digital and data solutions are embedded with AI and Gen AI. And that is where, as I said earlier, we are moving to a point where we want to talk more about outcomes rather than, how is it that we can utilize Gen AI to solve a specific problem.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think as AI practitioners, we've been guilty of confusing people with too many terms around AI. And I think, Vijayendra, when you were talking about your introduction, you said
Yeah.
statistical analytics, then analytics, then AI, then machine learning. I think half of the people that I know wouldn't even be able to differentiate between all of these things. And they've been practicing
Yeah.
AI or analytics for the last 10 odd years. And that's where generative AI is becoming real, because now it's impacting people on outcomes. It's not just something that is limited to a few trying to make a mark or trying to just show off technology. It's really starting to get down to the level of, like I said, my mother. If there are five ladies in a room talking about technology, it's really something which is impacting all of our lives, right? And therefore, I mean, I will probably want to say that outcome forward approach is what is really impacting the adoption of generative AI, right? And I love the Guru GPT, by the way. I think that's a phenomenal initiative, and I think EdTech is definitely going to benefit a lot. I know it's seen a bit of a slump lately, but
Yeah.
with generative AI coming in, and like you said, Guru GPT, something like that, that's where the real impact is. The fact that we will be able to provide information to every single person who's there on earth, whether they're in the remotest place of Africa, irrespective of language, irrespective of geography, irrespective of economic barriers. That's really what generative AI is offering on the table today.
Correct.
I'll move on to Vijayendra. Vijayendra, you come with a very interesting background from two perspectives. A, from the whole perspective of seeing this entire transformation happen from the early days to now, and second, with regards to management of data as well, right? And again, the scale at which you deal with data and the complexity of that data is very real.
Yeah.
How can you tell me if there is a change from two perspectives? One is there a change with regards to data management philosophies when projects like generative AI are taken at a company like yours? I mean, at the scale at which you were operating on. And then secondly, how are you seeing that impact translate to outcomes, like Gaurav said, with regards to customers interacting with you better, or it leading to actual numbers on the table for you? So would love to hear your perspective on both those points.
Yeah, sure, Abhishek. So before I answer this question, I think we'll start with, I think, what Raghu was mentioning about the roles, which the jobs which Gen AI is creating. I think it has happened in the, I would say, in the data science as an industry as whole in the last 10 to 12 years. Like if someone would have asked, like there would be a title called ML engineer 12 years back, nobody would have believed it. But today we have ML engineer, AI engineers, and everything. And that is happening because today, as we speak, we want to train models faster, we want to scale them faster, and we want to productionize them faster. And that is why these terms, like I think ML ops, LLM ops, or AI ops, that has making a round of the topic at a lot of board meetings and everything, because people are understanding like this is required if you want to make things faster. I think so. This part actually is related to your question. Like if I talk about from a retail perspective, customer experience is definitely the number one thing in terms of making sure your customer, whether they're in the stores or whether they're in the e-commerce or the online space, they're getting that assistance or they're getting that experience where they can go back and come back again to shop and everything. And that is where I think AI or Gen AI as a whole has a big role to play. It has already playing at a lot of places right now. And that is why when I talk about ML ops, AI ops, the things to do for things faster, to train model faster and scale them faster. So data is the key for everything, because if you want to process faster, you need to change your data management philosophies, the way it existed around 10 years back, now the way it is right now. Because right now data management, if I put it into two broad buckets, one is a structured data and one is an unstructured data. A lot of our Gen AI, I would say, techniques and everything require a lot of unstructured data. Now that unstructured data, a way we used to earlier, like if I go back 10 years back, that we used to do a lot of text analytics and everything. Now it is more regulated right now. If you see from the European market side or from the US side or from the Indian market side also, there was, I think, an article just a week back about how the Indian government is also looking to regulate the use of AI and everything. And that is why I think in that regulation, if you read through the lines, a lot of things are written about data itself. So the philosophy has to be changed, the way we use the data to build these algorithms and build these frameworks. And that is why, according to me, I think I try to bucket into four kind of streams. One is data usage, data labeling, data quality, and data storage. Starting with data usage, in these a lot of these regulatory frameworks which are created by a lot of federal governments and all, the usage of personal data is at the forefront right now. Like you give an example, like the GDPR Act, which talks about that uh, all the organization which are using AI frameworks, and when they are displaying the results and everything, they have to make sure that it's an explainable AI, that people understand what the result coming out. And if they're using the personal data, then they have to basically make it public and everything. So data usage has to be at the forefront. I think more from, I would say, more from captive and also more from service providers. Whenever we are building a Gen AI framework, we are using that particular amount of data, because data is humongous. You need that whole amount of data even to build a structured model, also even to build a Gen AI framework. So data usage, I think, is at the one of the principle that is changing, because at a data management level, you cannot basically use that personal data the way it used to be, I think. But right now it is more regulated and everything, and it has to be like with the consent of I think with the governments and everything. But that data is still required. We talk about personalization for personalization, and to make sure those custom messages and everything that we give to customer for campaigning and all, so that has to have some personalized data. And from that perspective, data usage becomes very important. The another aspect is about the data labeling part, because I think right now, earlier we used to handle a lot of structured data, which is like sitting in a very traditional RDBS format and everything. Now there's a lot of unstructured data, text, images, videos, and everything and all. So there's the abundance of data available. Uh, but how to label that data, like which text belongs to which? Very simple example from retail, like this particular text belongs to which product category and everything. I think that is where Gen AI will help us in terms of making sure that labeling happens. So Gen AI, I think, as Yatish mentioned, is all everywhere in terms of data management, also in terms of frameworks also. So data labeling is very important, because that is how you will fed your generative AI framework as such. I think the next part is the data quality, because we, as I said, like there's a lot of abundance of data available right now. The quality has to be at least 80% good, in terms of making sure your models and everything, your frameworks are giving right results. Because in the structured data format, I think we usually have a good quality of data available. But in the unstructured way, like you have to be very wary of the data quality, and there are actually tools available in the market where you can deploy those and make sure your data quality is up to the mark. Because without data, I think it used to be saying like data is the while. I think data has always been the while for the last 15 years. I think it has to be of top-notch quality as we do right now. I think the way Gen AI is disrupting the entire industry across phases and everything, I think data quality has to be a top-notch. I think this is one of the philosophies which was there earlier, but I think a lot of emphasis I see right now on that, because everyone talks about it. If you go in a meeting and everything, like if you're giving me this data, how confident are you about the quality of this data? If you're building a model, how basically how the data which you have used in that particular AI framework and everything, how confident are about your data and everything. I think that is one aspect. And the final aspect, I think, is, is on the data storage side. I think with the advent of cloud computing and everything, the storage, I think, is not a problem right now, which used to be earlier, I think 6 7 years back. But as we said, like it comes with a cost also. But the storage, I think, considering the amount of data we need to even to train a particular LLM to do a particular to solve a particular business problem, I think from that perspective, data storage is the philosophy which is changing. People are not looking at as a cost right now; they're looking at as an enabler, which will help them to build these AI frameworks more efficiently. So I think these are the philosophies. Some of them existed, I think, earlier also, but the way they are getting used today, I think it's getting a changed a lot. I think in the current way. Yeah.
Well, that's a very important point that you've hit, right? Because if you think about it, uh, the 4 points that you mentioned have been fundamental in any data strategy for a company. I mean, even from the days of the data warehousing and the reporting side, the fact that data quality has to be in place, the data governance has to be in place, PII data has to be regulated in a way where it does not really move out from various countries. But I think with generative AI coming in, that problem gets compounded
Yeah.
because it is data hungry,
Yeah.
and therefore you need to feed it as much as you want. So there is a temptation to give it whatever you have. At the same time, it has to follow a governance framework, and it just cannot be let loose, because then it can create havoc, right? I mean, you wouldn't want certain cultural aspects of a country to be impacting the cultural aspects of another country with regards to recommendations going from here to there. And hallucinations is a real thing. Hallucinations is one of the biggest questions that even our customers have when they talk to us with regards to how generative AI is performing. And the last part that you hit was very important: the accuracy at which they're responding.
Yeah.
You can have an almost right answer when you're doing a Google search or maybe trying to write something out, but if you're asking a question about sales, or if you're asking a question of brand performance, it cannot be an approximate answer. It has to be specific. And that's where, again, I think there is a journey that generative AI has to take, with regards to making it much more relevant to specific business questions as against a probabilistic
Yeah.
business question.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This was a fascinating first session, and I loved some of the examples that all of you put forward. Let's move to the second part. Now, one is the applicability of generative AI. Second is navigating innovation in the Gen AI area. And the way I look at it is there are two things. There is the very exciting part, which all of us love, which is the technology innovation. But there is a little scary part as well, which is the cultural innovation as well, and how do people handle it. Raghu, I'll start with you specifically around this, because I think you're, again, the space that you operate in, you're likely to impact both directly. Both technology wise, there's a race to how contact centers and omni-channel experiences is transforming. Would love to hear some innovative thoughts there. But how are your teams taking it, and are they taking it in a way which is productive? And secondly, are there initiatives that companies such as yours have to take in order to say put down some of the fears from a technology standpoint? Would love to hear your
Sure.
thoughts on that.
Sure, Abhishek. So, as you said, I'll tackle it regarding both technology and culture point of view, right? So, from a technology point of view, the biggest decision or the strategy that us as BPO leaders have to take is whether we build our homegrown NLM or to definitely partner with a suitable vendor in the market who has a lot of scale, lot of technology capabilities already, right? There are certainly pros and cons for both. and it's very in understanding the industry landscape, understanding our competitor landscape, what the customer needs. All those kind of play a critical role in whether we use our homegrown LLM or whether we partner with a vendor in the market. So we do, obviously, as Foundever, we have a partnership with another vendor for the last one and a half years. We've been working constantly with them in all the go-to-market initiatives. So why, right? So some of the fundamental challenges are, I think Yatish kind of touched upon a bit. When you think of omni-channel integration, right? So the use cases are powerful only if you're able to integrate with all the omni-channels, right? I mean, you need to have those API integrations. You need to be able to connect with all the different social media platforms. You need to be able to connect with insane amount of CRM platforms. Each company use their own different CRM platforms, Salesforce to Zendesk to Microsoft 365. And then you're talking about all the messaging platforms, then the original, the switch, or what we call as the contact center, where you get all the call information. So there's a lot of integration touch points that needs to all work seamlessly for you to really build a powerful use case, right? Without those integrations not being there, going back to what Gaurav said, it just becomes a use case. I don't think it's going to scale, right? You need to have that data. You need to have that ability to bring all those platforms together and the data together to build that what's needed for the customer. So those are, again, that doesn't mean that you do not want to build your homegrown LLM. So we have also went through a process. There is R&D in place to try that as well. But it's a fine balance of how to integrate that with some of the already existing capabilities so that you give the best of the state of the art to the end customer, right? From a technology perspective, these are the decisions and challenges we have to go through. Coming to people and cultural mindset, right? So, I mean, this is a great question. And for me personally, these things definitely have to come from top down, right? Successful organizations are those where the CEO and the COO have embraced this change, have understand the need for this change in the technology, invested on it, identified talents that can help grow this, implemented use case, tested, and fail fast, right? I think these are the organizations definitely I'm happy to say that we have one such organizations where we've tested, we went through the process, we failed fast, and we're learning fast to go to the market in a much efficient way. And what it means for people within the organization, I think because it comes from top down, there is a constant message from all the way coming from the CEO and the CEO in terms of what's this change going to be, how is this going to enable what I mentioned before, how are the agents going to become more empowered to become AI supervisors or AI agents, what type of technology they're going to get to make their job better. I think it's about showing them how their life is going to get better in terms of doing their mundane, repetitive tasks, how they are getting automated. Those are some of the ways that we have seen people realizing value and benefit and kind of coming out of that unknown element of fear, right? That's I'm talking about the lowest level at the agent level. And obviously there are different types of trainings that happens at leadership level, internal trainings and programs to kind of think of what are those specific business cases where you can create value. Again, reflecting back to what Vijayender and Gaurav said, is to narrow down to those specific use cases where you want to spend the money on, right? Not to boil the ocean. So hope that answers your question, Abhishek.
So just want to add to what Raghu said. I think the most important point here is being able to drive the change. Culturally, I think I think we've always found the technological change far easier. I think the cultural change is where it takes a lot more effort. So we, in our situation, I think it becomes even more important because we are a services organization focused on working for clients, and if the change is driven for the client and we don't drive it inside our organization, then for our talent, for our people, it's not really a change. Correct? We can't really say that this is how an organization can go AI first, and we as an organization are not really looking at being AI first. I think that is the first step. I know where things start for us. So earlier this year, we had our large event with customers and our employees together, where our senior management focused a lot on the communication aspect of this. essentially saying that we are going to be AI first, and we are also going to be the client zero for this AI first, essentially driving that change internally for ourselves. And that is why being able to tell our clients that this is why we say that this is going to work for you as well. Plus, the other aspect of that is buying in and engaging our talent. And that is why we have internally we have a lot of innovation roundtables, and we have a concept of ballot boxes, where you actually vote for innovation by submitting an idea for innovation. That's basically your way of that is why I can say that I've bought into this particular point of view that we have as an organization, and which is something that is really making people think a lot in deeper into how is it that they can actually drive small incremental changes using Gen AI or using AI really in what they currently do for their clients, or what they see in the organization itself. I think those things become extremely important.
Well, that's wonderful. Actually, Gaurav, the point that you made around change management is very, very relevant, because I think as technologists, we tend to forget that it's people that are ultimately getting impacted. And if people don't accept it, and if we don't make them part of the process, just like Genpact does, bringing them in, talking about innovative ideas, making them part of this process of acceptance of the technology itself, that will be a key driver in terms of the success of the organization itself, not just the success of the individual, but success of the organization itself. So the cultural aspect of this becomes even more important. And like I said, there are so many articles that we read out there about fear of technology, and at some level that fear exists within our organization. It's a real fear. I mean, be it I mean, on the extreme level, people think of it like a Terminator coming in, but at the most simplest level, Raghu, like it's happening in your organization, there are skill set changes, and like you said, the volumes
Yeah.
start to reduce, and especially for a country like India, that is a big thing. The fact that we have been relying on volume based businesses, especially on the skill standpoint, this change is likely to change the landscape of our country as well. Would we
Yeah.
be able to have enough jobs for all a billion people is a question. And it is a real question, and it's a real challenge, unless we actually expand into other areas of growth, and the upskilling happens. But how many people will really be able to upskill, is the question. But it is opening avenues as well, right? So I think it's a mix of both. It's not just that traditionally people who had access to information and education, they're the only ones growing. Now everybody has access to everything, and that's really going to drive the big change.
Totally. Yeah.
Perfect. um, uh, Gaurav, any more points you want to add with regards to innovation, or should we move to Tina on the next point?
I think that's it. I already talked about, with innovation, we will have risks, and we will have to keep that in mind as well. So, I think we have already covered
Got
it.
it. Super. Tina, your thought process, and I think companies such as yours have been very, very innovative, and have been actually at the forefront of innovation. So if there were top 3 or 4 companies that I would name with regards to innovation, your company would definitely be one of them. Uh, what's the mindset of companies such as yours, right? And how is it that they're always able to motivate people to be at the forefront of innovation, and therefore how are you seeing generative AI being accepted, and being actually being the pioneers in that space? So give me a sense of culturally what is going on within your space.
Sure, thanks, Abhishek. And I think some of the points that already Raghu and Gaurav have brought out, in terms of how we change the mindset of our employees to embrace Gen AI or to embrace any new technology, and bring it into their own working styles, right, or work life. We have been doing a lot of ideation sessions within our organization to see where Gen AI can fit in and where can we use Gen AI. And that's been, I would say, that's been really encouraging to see so many people come up to the forefront and provide their ideas on where Gen AI can be used. Although there are a lot of people who are still learning about Gen AI, from what's available on the internet, and they do not really have hands-on experience. But to see that, they come up and say, what, this is the area I feel Gen AI can be used, can you help me? And we as an organization, and me specifically as a data science lead and a Gen AI lead, I encourage them to come and give me ideas, and then we as a team help them in developing those ideas in order to incorporate it into their own lives. So that's one. And I think, some of the ideas that come up are really, mind boggling, I would say. Just right from generating codes, which can be used by developers, generating text, which is, text could be in the form of, it could be used in the form of SOWs or RFPs or any other contracts or legal contracts, right? How do we use Gen AI to generate such text and help people who are actually writing those documents, run books, for example, right? How do we help those people to reduce the mundane tasks that they do every day and improve their efficiency? I think that's another area that, we really work towards. And the other one would be, across, like, productivity and efficiency, right? We work across different areas to see where we can implement Gen AI in order to boost productivity for our employees, and then give it back to our customers in terms of devising strategic solutions for them. So that's where we are, Abhishek.
Oh, wonderful. And I think the message is very similar. Bring people in, let them be part of the process, let them again be creative with the way they're doing their own jobs, and get better at it. Vijayendra, I want to bring in your perspective, and from a little different point, because GCCs traditionally have been responsible for, I would say, the bulk of the work rather than the
Yeah.
innovation side. As a leader of a GCC, how is it that you're driving innovation within your setup, and do you have the power and the mandate from, say, your global entity to say, hey, go ahead, uh, go forward, do something, come back to us, we're really interested in driving this forward? So how is innovation and GCs in GCCs getting driven with generative AI coming into the mix?
Yeah, I think right now, I think the first step usually in this whole process is identifying the potential use cases. Because I think if we talk from the impact perspective, whatever we do, I think from a I would say from a basic machine learning model to a more of a Gen AI framework, I think everything has to be driven by the impact. So definitely there is a mandate for innovation because that's where the industry is moving towards it. And I think if I again comparison across the time frame, I think the way it was like 10 years back, the way it is right now, there is a place in the table to discuss about innovation, and people are basically understanding that innovation is like, especially like Gen AI is here to stay, and it will require investment, but it will give you a long term impact. So from a GCC's perspective, yes, I think we collaborate and we discuss very frequently with all our business leaders also who are driving the business at the forefront, discuss with them the opportunities that a Gen AI kind of a framework will bring upon the table, and then we discuss the impact also. And I think in this whole framework, we try to tell them like, if we do this uh, kind of a framework or this implementation in a phase manner, like 1 2 3, this is what we want to impact it. But there might not be a impact maybe at the start on, but it will give you an impact as we move forward. And that is where I think a lot of these transformations, especially which is happening on the cloud side, like a lot of organization now getting their data into the cloud instead of on premises right now. So that has also become part of the innovation exercise, and they are understanding the impact of having getting these results and these models faster at their disposable, so that they can do those data decision making decisions and everything, just to make sure that they are at the forefront of the competition and everything. uh, and in all this conversation, people, I see people very excited about it, and in terms of making sure we are not left behind it, to not use this innovation. They want to use it. The only, I think, question that we need to answer is from an innovation perspective, how much impact it can bring about in their lives and in the customer's life who are using. If I talk about from the retail perspective, that how they're going to use this innovation and everything. But definitely, I think there is a push towards it, to do more these kind of transformation initiative, and also to build a skilled workforce, I think, which Tina talked about, like how this workforce will be a asset as we move forward. Because we, like, overnight will not get people who will basically very much expert in GenAI. We have to build that skills in different of the workforce, that this will help, like this skill will help them to do good in terms of their aspirations also. But from an organization and from that perspective, it will help in long run. So there is a facets which is going on, but at different levels I see a lot of excitement in terms of and mandate also to do these initiatives.
Got it. Got it. Um, uh, Raghu, any thoughts that you have based on what Vijay just said?
Not specifically on Vijay's comment, but I wanted to touch upon one other thing that we were able to kind of realize benefit from a people and culture point of view on how GenAI can be adopted was, probably a lot of you are familiar with this. Like we were able to test and use Microsoft Copilot very early. So what it means was, our account management team, our sales team, our operations team started using GenAI, like through the Word, the Excel, the PowerPoint that we all use day to day, and started really seeing the day-to-day applications of GenAI, right? So that when they're able to have those same conversation with the client, they're able to have meaningful examples, meaningful use cases of how they are able to get that same productivity and translate it into different use cases as well, right? So just want to call out that kind of push from any organization. Obviously, it comes with a cost. We all know that Microsoft suites are not cheap. But obviously, if there is a right ROI tied to those type of initiatives, that you're able to reap benefit out of it. That is one way we were able to push the people and the culture mindset of using GenAI on a day-to-day basis and gaining benefit out of it.
Oh, wonderful. And then I think, again, the productivity as it continues to be a theme. I think what I want to talk about with regards to what Vijendra said, I think it's a aha moment for GCCs, because
Yeah,
the fact that now we're not just cost centers, but we're innovation drivers.
yeah,
Right.
And this will now basically become from a cost center to a profit center, because
yeah,
ultimately the initiators that we bring to the table will drive revenue and not just
yeah,
reduce costs. Is going to give us a lot more power, and is going to give us a lot more influence. And I've already started seeing that a lot of the companies that we work for have global presence, have GCCs, and I'm seeing that their US counterparts or European counterparts are handing it over to the GCC leads to say, can you tell us what to do next? Can you interact with this product, or can you interact with this company and tell us exactly what we should be following as a path forward? Because you know the space better, you have the technology prowess, and we feel that innovation should be driven from the GCCs themselves. I think it is really something that I feel really proud of, that this entire setup is completely upping itself with regards to its status in the market, right? Yatish, I want to get your perspective, because you bring in a very unique perspective of an Indian company, right? And we know, while we have been, it's funny when we say that we completely skipped the landline era and we went from no phones to mobile phones, and then again we were completely skipped the probably the hybrid era, and we went from no digital to all digital. What how is it that Indian companies are accepting this, and are they seeing as this opportunity to again skip maybe commerce as a whole, or e-commerce as a whole, and just move from general digital commerce to Gen AI commerce? But what is it that you're seeing with regards to acceptance of Indian companies with regards to innovation, and especially the ones which are digital forward?
Yeah, so I think all the panelists have given different views on technical and cultural perspective. So just to kind of summarize as well as add my viewpoints on top of it. So I think first I will kind of come on the technical aspects. I think Raghu made a point that integration is very important, where we have so Gen AI as a kind of a technology coming in for the success of it, the integrations with a lot of data silos which is built over the time. So we need to integrate the data as well as the external data and things like that. How do we kind of adopt to these new age tools to integrate these things, bring data together to give a new perspective from the customer angle? That is very important. That is what I'm seeing. And also cloud computing, I think everyone, we are in a kind of a stage where most of the companies have accepted, but in some of the companies where regulations are there, they're still kind of there on prem and things like that, like Vijayendra was touching about on prem and cloud. So now Gen AI being like a very resource intensive job, right? When you kind of need to build a model in Gen AI, you need to kind of uh, build in the cloud because of this elasticity, because you cannot kind of just procure a hardware for just a use case and then build on it, and then you cannot make that investments, right? So it is very important for the companies to start adapting cloud computing on the innovation side of things and use the elasticity power of cloud computing. And then like we were also talking about frauds and things like that, cyber security has taken a kind of a big stage in technical things, right? Like we are actually coming up with a lot of applications in Gen AI. One of the application was KYC, which Gaurav was saying about. There is also another thing, like there is a lot of deep fake coming into picture, how KYC can be kind of frauded. So there is a lot of advancements happening on that area as well. So these are some of the technical things. So if you come to the cultural things, uh, first thing, I think we are already kind of almost all the companies, maybe Indian enterprises or the MNCs, we are into a kind of data driven decision thing, right? So how do we kind of make that more what do you say present in the culture from the roots, right? From the roots to the till the CEO level, how do you kind of have that culture in the company? And I think Raghu was mentioning some of the collaborative tools which Gen AI is actually kind of offering. That's also important. So previously, the analytics or the AI used to be on a kind of a siloed view of a customer. Right now, Gen AI coming into picture, we need to kind of integrate multi teams, multi businesses through cross collaborations and give a view to the customer. So there is a lot of cross collaboration is required, and agile practices is required, where you need to kind of emphasis on experimentation mode of doing things, right? We cannot, so in the Gen AI, it's not that okay, every project we do uh, will be a success, because this is a very kind of a research thing and an experimentation. So we should start having that culture of experimentation. Failing is good, and learning from that is the actual thing. So experiment and then go forward with that. And also the last one what I want to touch is the ethical AI practices, because a lot of things what we are having is, I touched upon personalization and things like that. How much personalization is good, right? It cannot happen like gender bias or something. Demographically we are making some kind of biases which can actually kind of impact the sentiment of the customer. So personalization is good, but with a ethical framework to it is what is important in the Gen AI, right? So these are some of the things every company is looking, even the Indian enterprises are looking, which I wanted to kind of bring in. Thanks.
Oh, wonderful. Are they willing to spend? Because Indian enterprises aren't
Yeah.
very
Yeah, no, I
very
think
open
there is
to.
a lot of innovation. There is a lot of so again, in the sense, we cannot say we need to kind of have a big budget for a innovation, right? Experimentation we can start. So that's why I said that experimentation mindset is important, where we start kind of a small, understand is there a value, like Vijayender, Raghu, everyone was saying, it has to also have an impact. So we cannot do a Gen AI use case just because it is like a most cool thing, right? Is it having an impact? Is it actually impacting the customer? Is it actually helping the customer? Is something we have to see. And then through experimentation we will come to know that, and then take to the next level on budget. So if the things are very beneficial to the customer experience and impact is there, I think the budget will automatically flow right? That's the idea.
Gaurav and I smiled at the same time when I asked that question.
I think I have seen it myself. I think in banking space. I think while it may take some time for our banks to pick up on a certain activity, and they would definitely want to test it out. I think they are extremely financially savvy in terms of how they take these decisions, and we've typically seen that if you've done a couple of POCs, you've proved the business case well, then there's a lot more braver and bolder transformation discussion that happens with banks in this space. I think uh, in some of the use cases that I see our banks driving are really really unique.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We'll
So,
we'll transition. Sorry, Vijay, you had a point?
yeah, actually, Abhishek, just one point I think I will add. I think what Yatish just mentioned about ethical AI. I think another thing which I think will be very important as we move forward. I think the explainable AI principles, because I think if I keep on comparing the time frame, I think what happened used to 10, 12 years ago, like we used to have a lot of control when we're building a model. We know which variables needs to go into the model and everything. Today I think when we talk about, if we go from left to right from a traditional approaches of regression to more of tree based algorithms or more of LLMs and everything, I think from that perspective, for the end user who are using this, all these outputs, or even it's a business user or a customer, especially from a business user perspective, they should get that trust also on the algorithm as such, like what is coming out is actually right. And there would be a right amount of explainability, not from a technical standpoint, but from a, I would say, from a business standpoint. Example, maybe from a uh, customer churn kind of a model, where we say, okay, like this customer was not selected for this campaign because his response rate was less than this. So this kind of explainability rules, I think, probably will also be the key as we move forward, in terms of making sure that all the AI initiatives get a high level of adoption across the business levers. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that's a very relevant point. I think ethical AI, the kind of focus that I've seen in the last maybe a year, I have not seen that kind of focus across the board. I mean, there was a talk, but now it's becoming very important. Simply because, like I said, I mean, it's touching more lives. So therefore, it has to be one of the key topics which every company has to look at. Cool. With that, we'll segue into our last section, and I know we have not a lot of time left, but I would love some thoughts on companies that you guys feel are doing a lot in this space, and are sort of at a front with regards to innovation in Gen AI, and how they're tackling Gen AI. And the reason I say this is I was again reading something interesting which said Gen AI has actually been the only space which has received the maximum amount of VC funding over the last 12 months versus any other technology out there. So definitely there is a lot of interest, and there is a lot of VC money going in. Even in India, there is a VC winter, but Gen AI still seems to be getting all its attention. But any examples from the industry that you would want to talk about, be it startups or otherwise? Would love to hear that. Gaurav, let's start with you, because again, you have a lot of exposure to a lot of companies out there. Any particular company that you want to talk about based on what you're seeing or hearing out there?
So I think I'm sure we'll all talk a lot about startups as we go along. I think I want to bring out a couple of our clients in the banking space who are doing a lot of work in this space. One large player in US, focused. It's a fintech, but not really a small one. It's a pretty large one, and they are driving a lot of transformation in their organization, being able to build in Gen AI related operations across the entire framework, right from where you onboard your customers, you provide them advice on wealth, on retirement, all the way till how you do it in operations, their processes, from an HR operations perspective as well. They're driving programs which have a 3 to 5 year horizon, and Gen AI is only a component of of those transformations. And the way this works is is the typical framework that we would want to use even for Gen AI. Essentially, very outcome driven. focused on either coming up with very either driving revenues by a certain percentage up, or creating productivity or efficiency in their processes, as well as being able to train their employees to get to the right level. That I think is the strongest example that I have seen, and something that is delivering strong results for them. And then there are multiple scenarios I see where there's a lot of horizontal usage of GenAI that is getting driven across all organizations. And the typical use cases that I see a lot are around. How is it that you can actually automate your coding and testing processes? How is it that you can automate your, or make your training processes far better? How is it that you can actually implement a lot more automation in your operations processes? Those really are the examples that I see in the market.
Wonderful. Vijay, any specific company you want to call out with regards to what you're seeing in the market and kind of work that they're doing?
I think there are a couple of startups, sorry, which I'm aware of. I think which are using GenAI very exclusively in terms of customer experience. Basically, like they have, I think, frameworks in place uh, where they can send out custom messages to different customer in the form of videos and everything, and that data actually is getting accumulated at the back end. And a lot of organizations which are using those services can analyze the data which customer is actually responding to which kind of a video message and everything. And I think from a productivity standpoint, I think Microsoft, if I call out here, I think Raghu mentioned about co-pilots. I think a lot of these co-pilots which are there right now, I think will revolutionize the way we use traditional tools like Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, I think. And GenAI is making them possible to do a lot of this task very efficiently, I guess. So I think these are some of the examples which I've seen across the industry in terms of which are fueling this innovation, and which are basically motivating a lot of innovation in the GCC side also, to make sure we utilize these kind of capabilities and continue to enhance the capabilities which off the shelf which is being provided like players like Microsoft and all.
Wonderful. Yatish, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think from the ad tech space, right, there are a couple of things what I have seen. I think as the Gen AI is also progressing, there is a lot of ad fraud use cases also kind of creating. Like for example, there are a lot of bots which comes to the website, increase your footprints and things like that, which will increase your ad revenue. But at the same time, there is no kind of an end usage of that ad. It's not really kind of reaching out to the actual customers. It's just about. So there are few companies who are actually kind of identifying these fault fraud impressions and things like that. So Double Verify is one of the company who's also doing a lot of things on that. I think previously I touched upon personalization, right? On especially on dynamic content thing. There are companies, a lot of companies doing it. AdRoll is one of the company which is using Gen AI to kind of uh, creating dynamic creatives on the go when the customer lands onto a product and things like that. So these are some of the kind of products which is getting paced. And I think the art, I think next thing is nowadays I see a lot of art is getting created based on Gen AI, right? Especially on the picture side as well as on the video formats. So I'm really excited to see how that will turn into ad tech, and you create ad creatives on the go for the people based on their customizations and things like that, their demographics and things like that. So very exciting times.
Very interesting. Tina?
Yeah, I think a lot of creative companies are using Gen AI extensively to create photos, images, with natural language, right? They just prompt the application or the Gen AI tool, whichever they are using, to create an image of, XYZ with a following background, and it generates the image on the fly. Some of the others are management consulting firms where they create textual content that is displayed on their websites. along with that, what do they recommend to their users? So in that space as well, GenAI is used to kind of assess and analyze what could they recommend to their users dynamically. So that's another company that I know of who's using GenAI extensively.
Wonderful. Raghu, final thoughts?
I want to say our company is probably leading in that space, but yeah, but yeah, I kind of hardly touched upon a bit in my conversation before. There are a lot of vendors that we've evaluated significantly when we want to go to market, right? As a servicing providing companies, at the end of the day, we've looked at different vendors. There is Core AI, Cognigy. There are a lot of vendors which are SaaS platforms specific to the customer experience space, which you can quickly integrate. I've spoken about before, ability to connect to all the omni channels, the CRM platforms, and then give what you need. So those are some of the couple of companies that are definitely leading in the space. And in fact, they're Gartner ranked number one in 2023. So they're doing significantly with respect to the CX and the customer relations space, right? Just want to call out those two.
Wonderful. I think we're just at the top of the hour. Wonderful discussion. Thank you, everyone. I think if I were to take three things out of this is one, Gen AI is driving a lot of productivity. I think each of us talked about how it is changing the way companies are doing it, the way people are doing it. We talked a lot about outcomes and that AI is no longer a technology; it is actually an outcome, and that's really a game changer for everybody, right? From GCCs moving from cost centers to profit centers, and even for all of us, right, with regards to driving outcomes for our businesses. And then the cultural aspect of it, which is critical. I mean, ultimately, people is what drives these outcomes and productivity and everything. And how Gen AI is not a foe, but a friend of each of us, right? And each of the people who are going to be managed by it. So wonderful discussions. I loved this roundtable. I think a lot to take out of it. And thank you very much for all your thoughts. We look forward to seeing generative AI rise up more and more and impact each of our lives, and we being a critical part of that growth process. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everyone.